Today we're going to look at a difficult question that a lot of people don't really answer. So let's look at it very quickly. The question being, is it okay to masturbate to my wife's sister or friend or etc.? Maybe it's a best friend, whatever. And there are four specific things I would say just real quick. First off, lust grows. It always grows. And especially when fed. See, we lust for something more and more even if we don't feed it. And so when we are specifically taking time out to focus on that and to feed that lust, it's going to make things worse, not better. We have this idea that, I'm just going to do this one time and get rid of that energy and move on. Well, here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that is you are taking something that's not yours, and that's just not a good thing. And then also, like I said, it'll always grow. And what I mean by that is maybe you won't eventually cheat with that person in the future, but you will probably in the future cheat with somebody. And that's kind of a big issue there. But then also there's the issue that you are already cheating. Even if the other person didn't cheat with you, you are still cheating by yourself. And what we want to do is, no, it's okay. I can think about whatever I want, and don't stop kidding yourself. Go to your spouse and say, hey, I've been masturbating to all these different people, and some of your friends too. You know that will hurt them. You know that you don't want to say that, and you know that you would be embarrassed to say it in public, face to face with people that you know and care about. It's something that your own conscience is going to testify. So you can argue all you want about how, no, it's not really cheating, it's not really bad. Your conscience knows. The very fact that you're asking the question, is this okay, should be a warning sign that it's bad, and you know that it's bad, but you want to lie to yourself and you want other people to validate your poor decision just because you really, really, really want to get off to that person. So then the second thing, it breaks trust. Regardless of whether you recognize it or not, there's just this tension that comes into a marriage. I've done a lot of marital counseling, and whenever there's one of the partners who's looking at pornography, it always affects the marriage. And oftentimes it'll be hidden, like, man, it looks like everything's fine. What's causing this problem? Without fail, it's pornography. And the exact same thing happens when there's that break of trust. Even if the other person doesn't know, it still affects that relationship. It still damages the future of those two people. And then if the person does find out, oh my goodness, it causes resentment between them and their friend. A lifelong friendship can be ended. It causes this just this bad tension in the house, and it's not good. The third thing, it's an unclassy thing to do. It's just trashy to do that. Your wife trusts you. Your wife trusts you with her friend, with her sister, and then you just break that trust. But that's just such an unclassy thing to do, just because you're horny. That's extremely unclassy. Here's the thing you have to remember: all feelings pass. You will not die if you do not have sex. It's okay. You can be in control. I know nowadays it's like, oh no, I can't control it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. There will always be someone more attractive than your spouse. Someone who, just sparks that fire. Oh, I'm in love. You're not in high school anymore. You have to stick with the things that are worth sticking with. Even if they don't feel like they're worth sticking with at the time. And one last thing before I go to the fourth thing, relationships can't be based on sex. They have to be based on sacrifice, self-sacrifice. If I'm basing my relationship with my wife on the fact that I'm attracted to her, that's not going to be good, because eventually I'm not going to be attracted to her. Eventually she might get hurt and, she might get fat. See what I mean? She might get where, oh no, I'm not attracted to her anymore. I can only stand girls that are under 130 pounds. Yes, I actually have met guys who thought that if a woman was a little chunky, she was not attractive. So it's very common nowadays. It's like the whole Barbie thing. I don't know. We're kind of conditioned in some ways, and then everybody's like, oh, let's end the rape culture, but then we build the rape culture by how we act with things like putting kids in competitions with their looks and stuff. And it's like, well, if we really don't want to build a rape culture, maybe we ought to stop doing that, but whatever. So then the fourth thing, lust grows, it breaks trust, it's an unclassy thing to do. The fourth thing, love is serving regardless of whether you get something back. A lot of times we want to justify our thing. Let's get down to the real problem here. The real problem is usually that maybe your spouse doesn't want to have sex, they don't want to have sex as much as you want to have sex, or maybe they just don't want to have sex with you. And so there's a few things. There are a lot of typical reasons why your spouse will stop wanting to have sex with you. Okay, sometimes it's sex drive, but let's be honest. Most of the time, your spouse will still take one for the team, to make you happy in a healthy marriage. Um, Not all the time, but much of the time. So there's the obvious thing of, sometimes you're just being too demanding. Like, for instance, 5 times a day. And it's like, well, maybe they don't want to do that 5 times a day. Maybe they want to do other things, in which case, maybe you could space it out there. You know what I mean? Instead of demanding, hey, you need to do this. And you see it happen a lot with Christians too, because they take verses out of context and they say stuff like this. Well, the Bible says that you can't withhold yourself from me. Yeah, and it also says that you have to surrender your body to your spouse too. So it's like a two-way street. And that would mean that if they want to have sex and you don't want to have sex, then that would mean that they should give way to you, or you should give way to them. You can't see. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it. Oh, I'm in control when I want to be in control. I'm not in control when I don't want to be. See, that just doesn't fit. And yes, I am aware that I said that wrong. Um, so the first thing that you see that really causes spouses to not want to have sex, putting yourself first, not just in life but in sex. Whenever you have sex, it's all about what you want to do. It's all about you reaching your climax, and then in life, it's all about what you want to do in life. It's about your future, your goals, your dreams. There's no mutual building up. When you have kids, things have to be done my way. If you don't have kids, it's like, I don't want to have kids, or I don't want to have sex. It's all about you. There's no like trying to put the other person first. If you want a woman to be completely turned off with you, have everything be about you. And a lot of times we do this kind of covertly. Like, for instance, this is a way that we can do this: complain frequently. Everything that they do, always tell them how they could have done it better, how they should have listened to you, how they did it wrong, how, they aren't doing this and they should be doing that. And then in combination with that, don't respect them and don't give them any encouragement. Those two things men do more often than not. A lot of times men don't really love their wives, but they don't know that they don't love them. It's just that they're not willing to put forth any effort. They're not willing to forgive and move on. They're not willing to let the other person have an opinion or an idea or whatever. It's got to be my way all the time. And they don't even realize that they're doing that. So we drive our wives away from us without even realizing that that's what we're doing. But that's exactly what we're doing. You have to validate her. You have to encourage her. And women will give sex for the purpose of building a relationship. Men want sex to just help appease their appetite. Women want to build towards something. They want to feel like their relationship is going somewhere. A lot of times, especially when people are dating, the dating won't go anywhere, so the women will start withholding sex to try and get, or sometimes overdo it with sex, or sometimes try and get pregnant. And all this stuff because you aren't committing to them. It's really not that hard to figure out what's wrong. The problem is we stop listening, and we start only being concerned about ourselves. Do you come home and you're just too tired to talk? Do you leave in the morning without saying goodbye? Do you go the entire day without thinking about them, without sending them a text, without calling them, without, just letting them know that you're thinking about them? A surprise gift, just, saying, hey, I had this thing to do, but I'm going to schedule out for another time. Let's do something together. That just generally putting yourself first. And it's something that it's unattractive. It's not going to build your relationship. Marriage is a lot of give. Sometimes it'll seem like you're the only one doing the giving, but if you outlast those periods, you'll realize that both parties did, and that there's going to be times when you're weak, but they're giving when you're not giving. So it's really something that's not two people giving 100%. It's oftentimes one person giving 300% and the other person not, and then the give and take of that. But ideally, the two people should be giving. Another way that we put ourselves first is not making any time for them. Oh, this is my hobby. This is my alone time. This is my time to do this. That's your job to do that. I'm not going to help you with that. Hey, you're responsible for the dishes. I do the laundry. And it's like, well, maybe that putting each other first. Like, if it was me, would I want somebody to help me if I got overburdened? Well, yeah, but the reason why they're overburdened is because they're doing this wrong and they're not listening to me. Yeah, I get that. But are you in this marriage for your sake? So, I mean, are you just trying to make yourself happy, or are you trying to build into another person's life? Sorry, my nose is a little clogged up from the cold weather that's coming in. So not making time for them. Another thing is talking more than listening. In an argument, you always have to be right. You always need a sounding board, but you're not willing to give them the same courtesy. Maybe you have a mental issue, and that's very time-consuming and just draining for them, and you don't ever do anything to build them up, but you just kind of expect that they have to help you. And it's like that kind of unthankful attitude just really rubs people the wrong way. I already said always having to be right. Uh, your spouse likely didn't get married to someone who, if they, your spouse likely didn't foresee that you would become a fat, unmotivated, undriven person who doesn't even try to grow, doesn't want to change, doesn't want to learn, just wants to have everything their way. That's probably not what they thought. They probably wanted a little more romance than that. They probably wanted to know that I'm loved, and not just by words, but by actions. Like, for instance, do you only tell your spouse that you love them during sex? Or do you take time to show them that you love them? Do you try to speak their language? Like maybe they're more of a touchy person. Do you go out of your way to touch them, just to let them know, hey, yeah, I'm thinking about you? Maybe when you're talking to them, just put your hand on their shoulder, or little things like that. Give them a random hug. Take off of work on your lunch break and go down and just to see them. Little things like that to let them know you're special to me, you matter, I'm thinking about you, that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, there's the other extreme where somebody doesn't, well, it can always happen, but we'll move past that. Um, but really, the idea is your spouse is expecting you to serve them, and you are expecting you to be served. So that's really the biggest problem right there. You're wanting your spouse to do this or this or this, and they're wanting this and this and this. And so you have these two conflicting ideas and goals, and there's no communication happening, and so it just kind of breaks down. There has to be some kind of, okay, where are we crossing? Where are we crossing? I feel like maybe I'm not listening. I'm not quite understanding. Could you explain this to me? And then let them know, look, I'm sorry that I did that. I'm trying. Will you give me another chance? I really am. And then when they give you that chance, actually put forth the time and effort. We just kind of go along with this idea that we are the most important person in this relationship. Oh, you're not thinking about me. And it's like, well, if I put them first, they'll walk all over me. Well, okay, that's not really love. That's you watching out for you. Love is sacrifice, not expecting everybody to sacrifice for you. There's kind of a big difference there, and obviously there should be a healthy line of communication where you can talk to each other. Like, look, I really feel like you're not even trying. What's the issue here? Is there something that I did? Let's work through this. Don't think of divorce and giving up every single time there's a problem. And then remember that there's going to be some times when you're just going through a rough time. Maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe there was a sickness or something like that. And you have to be willing to curb your sexual appetite for, as long as it takes to get things back on their feet. Typically, your spouse will stop wanting to have sex with you if it's obvious that you are not concerned for their best interest. Now, sometimes you will have married just someone who's just, maybe you didn't know who they were. Maybe you expected that you could change them. And with that being said, the person you married is who you married. You can't expect for them to change because you thought that you would change them. Like, that's not reasonable. That's just not reasonable. You have to accept the person for who they are. And if you can't do that, you shouldn't be married. Like, marriage is not all about you. And it's not finding someone who's perfect. Like, there's this idea that there's this one person out there that will just completely mesh and never have a problem, and that's just wrong and stupid. That's never going to happen. You will have conflicts. You will have fights. What's important is that you work through them and you guys open the line of communication. If your wife is not wanting to have sex with you, typically there's a reason for it. And with that being said, part of the reason might be exactly why you're looking into this question. Is it okay to masturbate to my wife's sister? The very fact that you're asking that might show that you're more interested in your wife's body than in her as a person. Let me give you a hypothetical, okay? Let's say you never have sex with your spouse ever again. Never again. Would you still sacrifice yourself for them? Would you still love them? Would you still not cheat? Would you still stay faithful? That's kind of what I'm talking about. If the answer was no, I wouldn't, then you're not in that for love. You're in that for what you can get. And no marriage can prosper where you're in it just for yourself. Try listening instead of talking. Try including them in decisions. Oh, you waste money all the time, but I can buy money. Like I was just dealing with this married couple. Um, he was nagging her about every single purchase that she made, every single one. And then he wanted to buy a TV, a very expensive TV, and she didn't want that. And so instead of listening, he decided to go ahead and buy it anyways. So he wants her to sacrifice her spending decisions, but he doesn't want to sacrifice his spending decisions. It's all about him. You're spending too much money. You're spending too much money when he was doing the exact same thing. There was no communication, no compromise, no let's fix this. See, marriage is a lot of even if I'm wrong, even if I'm the one who's at fault, I want this marriage to succeed. What can we do to fix this? What can we do to move forward? You wronged me, I'm letting it go because I don't care if you know that you were wrong. I don't care if you know that I was right. I don't care if I'm proven as, that's how you keep your marriage alive. And here's the thing, when you take steps to keep love and romance in your marriage, those are two different things. Love is steadfast commitment to somebody, and romance is the intimacy, not just sex, but intimacy, holding hands, kissing, letting them know, that kind of stuff, the more heart-to-heart stuff. Um, it really does change things. So basically, when you're not concerned with your spouse's best interest, it will rub off. When your spouse knows that you don't really care, you don't make time for them, you don't listen to them, you just don't really care. And that idea of you're not really loving you. Oh no, I love my wife. Why? Why do you think that you love your wife? Are you showing it with your actions, with your words, or are you just saying, "Oh, I love her" because you're too lazy to find another wife? See what I mean? Like most men that I've met don't really love their wives. They love the idea of their wife, but they can't accept their wife for who they are and then sacrifice themselves for their wife's best interest. And that's probably why your spouse is not having sex with you. Typically. I haven't found a situation where there wasn't... I have never seen a situation that couldn't be resolved by the husband just sacrificing himself for the wife. Men, by their nature, just want to be served. And women get tired of it. That's the long and short of it. You're more concerned with your sexual appetite than with her. That's what it comes down to. If your wife says, "Look, I'm not in the mood today. I've had a long day," do you instantly go to, "You always do," or you say, "Look, I'm sorry. Is there something I can do to help you to relax? Would you like me to watch the kids and you can take a nap? Would you like me to do your chores? Here, let me rub your shoulders. Let me help you to relax. Let me draw you a hot bath. See what I mean? Instead of, "Oh, you're not thinking about me." I'm not thinking about you. I should have picked up on the signs that you're having such a rough and hard day. Let me help you. See, that's a completely different attitude. It's not me first, it's you first. You're my spouse. I committed to you. Even you're going to do some things that irritate me. You're not going to see eye to eye on stuff with me, on a lot of stuff. But I didn't marry you to be a second me. I committed to you because I'm committed to you. So that takes us to, what about biblically, from a Christian standpoint? Jesus talks about how lusting after people, that is having an affair. It's the same thing. So if you're doing it up here, you're doing it. That's just what it is. You can't step around that. He talks about that in the book of Matthew. The very fact that you're asking this question is a warning that you need to start working on your relationship. You can't just expect for your relationship to be fine. If you can't have sex because of health issues, you can still masturbate to your spouse. You can do other things with them, maybe not in a vaginal kind of way, but maybe just like in a kind of kissing and petting kind of way. You'll just have to connect with your partner and kind of find out what's best for both of you. But it's very important that you love them through it and you stay faithful through it, because it's not all about you and it's not all about your sex drive. You have to support them even when they can't give you what you want. You took an oath before God and your spouse. Stick with it. And I hope that this helps. Have a great day.